Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to AVX Live. I am your host this week, Ryan Finch, Creative Technology Director here at Corporate AV. And once again, I have been absolutely abandoned on or around my birthday by one Joe Gilderson. I really am stunned that he did it again. I mean, this is twice in 2 years. He's out gallivanting somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. He doesn't really tell us. I promise him, though, I'm going to have to return the favor next week when I'm away. Again, bad job by Joe, but welcome back. Glad to be here. Before we begin, I do have a very, very special shout out that I have to give to one of our own here at Corporate AV, Alexa Frost. Her name is different now. Very cool name. Congratulations on your wedding. We're very happy for you and Anthony. We wish you well. We hope you had a wonderful day, and we hope you enjoy wherever you are right now. We hope you have some fun, and come on back soon because Kids Corner misses you, and we look forward to having you back. So congratulations. Of course, another housekeeping item. Next week, we have Pirate University. We've talked a lot about on this show. The registration is still open, so if you have not registered, you are interested, you want to get some training, you want to find out what all the buzz that we're creating is about, then please head over to the website. I think it's / hold on, wait, I have it on a pop-up. There it is, corporateav.com, pirate_university_2022. Go to socials, go anywhere where you think we would post it. We probably posted it there, and check it out. We'd love to have you. So registration's still open, so please do. So we had a great conversation with Mara last week about work-life balance, but we're going to shift gears a little bit back into the production world. We here at Corporate AV do a fair amount of travel for certain clients, and as we've told many over the years, we have a pretty efficient system that we've worked out to do so. And in order to do that, we've worked with a pretty incredible network of regional partners. And so we do have one of them joining us today. But before we get into that, my favorite part, I have to go over my lines. And today I'm clicking all of the buttons again because Joe Gilderson has abandoned me. So here they come, maybe a little slower than usual, but you can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube Live. You can do that every Wednesday at 1 p.m., just like it's Wednesday at 1 p.m. right now. And while you're there, you can drop us a comment. You can be part of the show. We're doing it live. So drop a comment. We will answer it live. And of course, while you're there, you should smash the subscribe button. Follow Corporate AV on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Show us a little bit of love. Very much appreciated. And of course, afterwards, our regular video chopper, Ms. Frost, is out right now, but you can typically find some bite-sized chunks of this program afterwards on Instagram and on Facebook for some quick video bites. And if you have any other questions, I didn't even know this banner was here, but I feel like it's helpful. So please email us at corporateav@corporate-av.com if you have any other questions. Okay, so having said all that, let's get into today's guest, Daniel Kuehm of Atomic Picnic. So Daniel's the president and CEO of Atomic Picnic, based in Austin, Texas, and a 20-year veteran of the industry. There, Daniel strives to create design components using technology, decor, entertainment that provide audiences with long-lasting impressions. Overall, he and his team provide audiovisual services, event production design, content development, lighting, post-production, equipment rental, sales, permanent installations, and little known fact, actually, Daniel is a major PB&J enthusiast. I do see hot sauce in there. I'm just noticing that now, and I'm going to have to ask you questions about it. But in any case, Daniel has been a partner of ours for a few years. We've worked on a number of projects together. We've worked closely together, and he's somebody who I'd consider a friend. So I'm looking forward to speaking with him. So please, without further ado, welcome Daniel Kuehm.
Hello, Mr. Ryan, birthday boy.
Thank you. Soon to be birthday boy. I'm serious. Last year, he abandoned me on the day of my birthday and said you had to do the show. Horrible.
Well, I will absolutely not abandon you. As far as you know, I will not.
That's right. And actually, I'm glad you pointed that out because Daniel, tell our lovely audience, where are you right now?
I'm not coming to you live from 1 p.m. Eastern. It is 6:05 here in Sintra, Portugal. I'm scouting our new location.
Okay.
We can do AV in Portugal, right? This is fun.
All right. But are you also enjoying some time? Are you enjoying some time away from the office?
Yes, this is what AV people do when they're on vacation with their wife. They bring an IFB and they come over here and they talk to beautiful people like you because I love to. I love talking about this stuff.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you didn't see where I was going with this, I was trying to take another jab at our president because he's on vacation and he just said, "Nope, not working. Sorry, buddy."
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess we'll have to make do. Yeah, exactly. Big thumbs down. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you here. It's been a little while since we got to really dig into it last, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to having a conversation. So I guess we should start with our first question. What do you think? Yeah.
All right. First question.
Oh no, I'm gonna say it to you. I'm not gonna make you remember it.
I remember nothing. I've been drinking wine in Portugal.
That's that's perfect. Okay, so, well, you have been operating in a similar world as us. So tell us more specifically, what kinds of things does Atomic Picnic get into? What kind of groups do you work with? What projects really get you going?
Absolutely. So I started Atomic Picnic about, between 18 and 19 years ago. And generally our background is corporate AV. We do, a healthy amount of national sales meetings and other corporate, meetings. Work with a lot of nonprofits as well, have for many, many years. And then every once in a while, a smattering of let's do something weird. Those clients that say, hey, I'd like to go out here to South by and do this crazy thing. Is it possible? And the answer is sure, I think. So video mapping buildings, or trying to put technology in play that's only been out for 10 days, that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, that I like the weird. I
like the weird.
Those are usually the interesting ones, and I always like asking this to people in this space. Are there any projects in particular? You don't need to use names or anything, but are there any projects that you look back on and you say, that was it, that was weird, and I really enjoyed being a part of it?
Well, weird and really enjoying being a part of it is not necessarily the same thing, right?
Fair.
We've had some weird experiences. I mean, look, if you do this for 20 plus years, right, you're gonna hit a couple of days where you go, that was interesting. But I definitely think that there's some of the off-ball stuff that you get where you really are not sure exactly what the client has in mind, and then the concept comes through. And I think South by there's a one in particular that I really liked. And my client was an agency. They do a lot of brand work. They actually are from Austin, which is unique kind of to South by, because most brand agencies are coming in from other places.
Coming in.
And he said, look, we've got this thing that we want to do at our office. Our office is on 6th Street. It's right in the middle of everything. And we want to do a grumpy cat activation for our client.
Grumpy cat.
The little cat, right? And he said, yeah.
Yeah.
But we want the little cat to be 3 stories tall.
That's not little at all, Daniel.
So we literally took every single piece, every window that they have in their entire building, and video mapped this 3-story experience for grumpy cats, staring kind of down, at the crowd, overlooking 6th Street. And it became the #1 tweeted experience of that particular year for South by. So it was
wow.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's certainly your thumbprint on South by, and I want to ask you about that because I think there's a lot there. But before we get into that, I want to know how did you find your way into this world, into the world of AV production, creative experiences?
I actually started in the film industry, and I grew up in Houston, and I worked in the theater in Houston. But when I came to Austin, which is this is my 30th year in Austin, I had every intention back there in the 90s to, go into film and do film full time, which of course I did for a while. But there's a lot going on with the writers' strike back then, and production is very different in terms of what you were able to get on, what actually paid money to get on. Sure. And when the writer's strike happened, the thing that was booming the most was AV. And so I actually ended up working for Freeman, or AVW at the time. Sure. And I was a Freeman guy for 3 or 4 years there. And worked in the hotel system and in-house. I also worked in the show services department and did video engineering and traveled around and did TD work and op work. And eventually, after leaving Freeman, I kind of teetered in the creative industry back and forth. I did film and TV, and then all of a sudden AV just every once in a while kind of merged, so you'd be on a film set and for Robert Rodriguez, and he needs outdoor projection, and that it's like, okay, well that's AV. And so these things just kind of turned into the ability of us saying, why don't we just have a production company that does corporate AV? Absolutely. But does it for maybe a different group? You're not just in the hotels all the time. You're not just working with corporate meetings all the time, but where does that technology really need to take place? And so we were able to do TV, and that picture of Mobley that you had earlier was actually it was a campaign that was done by, no, it's the one with the 3D screen video map.
There we go.
That one. It's actually, the city of Austin did a campaign for tourism. And there's a great video. If you guys want to find it online, it's just search for Mobley Austin. I'll see if I can find the link and send it back. But they wanted to show what Austin was capable of. He's an amazing musician. He's amazing talent. And I got to work with him. And, one of the things is that we're, as tech people, right, we can really work anywhere. We can work in any market at any time. And
Right.
these days, especially, be able to work in more places as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, you're working in Portugal right now, so you're proving that. But now, is there still the itch as far as film goes? I know with creative types, it's like your first love sometimes dies hard. Or are you getting enough of that with your current work that is satiated?
I'll tell you a secret, and anybody that's out there that is thinking that they want to get involved in feature film and I want to write my screenplay and do all that kind of stuff. I had more fun in my job in the film industry, which is basically running movie sets. I was a first assistant director.
Okay.
And I actually like that more. I mean, it's a great job. You're in charge of a crew of 160 people, and you're in charge of the budget. You're in charge of the timeline and what you have to shoot per day. And it's actually a fun time. It's like doing AV work, but in a very short timeline and a very, very fast pace. So I enjoyed it.
Well, it certainly sounds interesting. Now, I have some exposure to that because my wife comes from the entertainment side, and she's been on both sides of the camera. But when she talked, specifically behind the camera, she always talked about the ADs, first and second ADs, and she always made it sound like those people were absolutely like insane because of the pace that they had to work at, kind of like you said. And so it was almost like they were always out of breath and their mind was in 17 places at the same time. And you missed that, is what you're saying.
I do. And one of the things that it teaches you, and this is not necessarily a bad thing to learn in any market, but it teaches you how to do creative eavesdropping. So when you have a movie set, you have a lot of different departments, and some of those departments they get around with each other totally fine. Some don't. They kind of clash in terms of what they're trying to achieve and what this next piece is trying to achieve. But if you have your IFBN or whatever, if you kind of listen in the movie set, you will find interesting little nudges that you can do and move the production on over and over again. But you have to be clued into every single conversation that's going on around you. And it's challenging, but it's very fun.
Absolutely. Well, and I like that, that phrasing of creative eavesdropping, and specifically on the creative side. That was actually one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Now, being professionally creative, I think, is a challenge in and of itself, aside from the nuances of managing people. Are there any tips to your approach or any tidbits of wisdom as far as being professionally creative, other than that?
In all honesty, and things have, without a doubt, they've changed recently, right? So
Yeah.
the paradigm shift of all of the stuff that we're dealing with, personally, things that people are dealing with, whether it's their family or where they have their business now or what their business is. it's a much more challenging time to go through this process of working in production and trying to get to that final destination of what that product, right? And you just have to stop. You just have to stop and listen a bit, because one of the things that I've found over the last 2 years versus the last 10 years is that a lot of people really don't necessarily feel like they know what they need to do to get to that next level, or to get their meeting prep, to figure out what their stage needs to encompass or look like. And maybe they don't even have these teams anymore. Maybe these teams are gone and they're all doing it in-house. And I'm working right now with a CMO and a VP doing things that, 5 years ago, they would never be in this conversation. But they have to be in this conversation, because they've got to apply that lift to get this done. And so really it's just about taking time and being patient with people,
Patience is a virtue. It is harder for some people than others, but no, I mean, you're spot on.
You should ask my wife. Yeah, absolutely.
Patience with you, huh? Well, all the good ones have plenty of it, so kudos there. But you mentioned another thing, Daniel, about South by a couple of times. Obviously, South by Southwest, usually in the month of March out in Austin, is a major undertaking. Citywide, groups and businesses and organizations of all kind come in and try to create that most tweetable moment. Right, everybody's vying for the same eyeballs, and but I know from one of our recent projects together that it is kind of a monster in and of itself, and that there's a lot of quirkiness and there's a lot of needing to know the inner workings of it. What do you think are some of the things that groups who are coming into town for this festival, maybe it's a CMO who's never had to be this low to the ground in terms of the planning before? What do you think people like that really need to know about it?
Oh, it's a good question. Everything that you have maybe seen about South by, and everything that you, in the back of your mind, that absolutely makes sense about what your plan is to go to South by and have this brand activation, that first layer, throw it away. Because it really is, it's a different experience. And it's, obviously, this is a much different market for South by in terms of what's going on and how big it got. Like, the 2014, 2012, there was a couple of years there where it was gigantic. It's undescribable how large it was. Yeah. It's not that way anymore, but it's still within a town. Austin is it's not Manhattan, but it's also got a ton of people. And then there's the 160, 170, 180,000 extra people that come, for this event, that land on a footprint that cannot hold it very well. So one of the things we always suggest for people to do is don't skip the site survey. You really have to come to Austin. You really need to make sure, and of course I'm saying this to you, Brian, because I just wanted to hang out with you. And we did it over video. It worked. Ryan was busy, and we had some stuff going on. So, but it really coming here and looking at these venues and getting a good idea on the ground of really what you can expect is essential. That's the first part. The other part is, you're not going to be the only one. You're going to be the only one in that 100 square foot range. And so one of the things that on his project we were dealing with is, you have on Rainey Street downtown, you have bar and then bar and then bar, and they're all venues, and they all have one brand activation in the morning and another brand activation in the evening, and it just rotates through the whole time. So you will be competing for, intelligibility levels with PA systems and RF frequencies and loading and unloading space. It's really going to take some extra thought to make sure that you can get a good job done. Oh,
no question. No, and obviously, I saw that firsthand or secondhand, depending on how you call it, because I wasn't physically there. But I remember going through that process, and you're spot on with that. I mean, you know it better than anybody I know. Now, it is somewhat similar in some regards to my home market, right? When we go into Manhattan, as you're probably familiar as well,
Yep.
it's like you may be waiting on a line of trucks to get to the loading bays in order to get your gear in order to get to the, and then wait on line to get the freight elevator. So a lot of the time it's like we're just planning to show up way earlier than we need to be, and just let that be what it is, because you never really know, and you can't necessarily plan for traffic jams, aside from traffic in the street, but also traffic in a building. So, certainly similar there. Now, aside from South by, and maybe there is no answer to this. I'm curious to see what you'll say, but in your home market of Austin or Texas in general, are there any other quirks, not unlike the loading docks of Manhattan or the union, issues that we run into? Are there any other quirks that you would call out? I know you do a lot of traveling. Are there any other things that kind of are idiosyncratic with your home market?
Well, I think in Austin, which is going to be very similar to most places where we all do AV work, it's you're going to have venue specific characteristics that are just complicated.
Yeah.
One hotel has a great loading experience, the other one doesn't. Those things I think we all can pivot very quickly and learn, and that's totally fine. And this kind of gets into how Ryan and I started this relationship. The local talent, the local resource part of this, and particularly in Austin, this is starting to become a quirk, right? And it's not just something that's, I think, Austin related. I mean, I think all around the country, we're looking for people that didn't either necessarily make it out of the pandemic as an AV tech and they're still working,
right,
or they've moved on, into a more of a permanent position working for an in-house company, or that kind of thing. And finding just really good, solid people in any city to try to make sure that we can do the same job that we did in 2018, 2019, that we can do now and next year. That's the biggest hurdle that I see in this, and I've got great people that work for me, and the pandemic obviously was a huge thing for all of us to go through, but there's talent out there that we're just all scrambling for the same talent, it seems like.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and yeah, I mean, that is certainly seems to be industry wide, right? I mean, we've experienced the same things. There's a lot of people who were not able to wait for that freelance work to come through because it didn't exist. And there's only a certain amount of time before people need to figure out something else, and unfortunately that seems to have been what happened. Now I'd have to imagine there are a lot of backyard music venues that are also missing their band audio engineers that typically show up. I mean, are you typically competing for the same people in that regard? There was a time actually when, I'm kind of off on a tangent, but a very good friend of mine and I had considered moving to Austin. He was an audio engineer, and I'm like, well, I know what you're going to do, man. But I mean, are those the same guys in your market that are doing sound checks for the band that night and then showing up for corporate jobs in the morning?
Some, not all of them. Some, though. There's definitely you have people that might be in that. I worked on the church during the day, and then I go and I do a couple of venues, and I have a couple of bands that I work for at night. There definitely are people that do that kind of just 24/7, and that's their sweet spot. And they don't necessarily just do the whole corporate AV thing and show blacks and all that. In 2008. 2009, I'll tell you, you could find an audio engineer accidentally. I mean, there were so many audio engineers in Austin, and as we were the live music capital of the world, which I think we still are, we're not really sure, we're figuring it out. We had tons and tons of music going on, a lot of venues that were open, and you could find an audio engineer anywhere. A lot of those venues closed. Over the last couple of years, even before the pandemic and before the shutdown, a lot of venues started to have the same issues that they do in other markets, which is real estate. The rent goes up. We just literally can't make our nut this month, and it's just not going to happen. And a lot of these bars move on, and the developers come in and they change it. And with that, the people go away.
Right.
So you see people these days kind of hunting and pecking back into kind of post. It's hard to say post COVID, post pandemic, because last time I checked, I
Yeah.
think I still
Right.
took a test every week.
Yeah.
You see people that are trying to find, their new market, right? But it's much more complicated,
For
these
sure.
days. I think they're there. I think there are people are available, but there's also a lot more business. We came out of this, like a floodgate,
Full steam
since the
ahead.
shutdown.
Right. Yeah, and those two things are diametrically opposed, right? More demand and less resource. Perfect. But while we're on this topic, I've talked at length, Joe and I, as far as how our path through the pandemic, through the worst of it, 2020 and early 2021. I'm curious to know, as far as how things went for you. Take me through it. I mean, what did you do during this time when there really was no live event work as we knew it going on?
Well, I could honestly say that the experience of COVID pandemic and in Texas and other locations, the forced shutdown of your building, your office, your whatever it is, that is an experience that you can't plan for, and you're not probably, hopefully, going to ever have that again. I don't even think we would, the local people, local municipalities would even do it. But I started my company in the Great Recession, or shortly before.
Sure.
Timing probably not so good, right? I went, it was great. I had some business. People really liked working with me. Great, let's spend some money and let's start growing this company. And then the recession kicked in, and things started to slide off 50 or 60%. Okay, well that's not what I had in mind.
Right, not ideal.
But not ideal. But the strange thing about the Great Recession is that in those years, 2009, 2010, my company still grew, like exponentially still grew. And there was a little bit of a delayed thing in Texas and in how the corporate and real estate market works.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2011, 2012, it finally caught up with us, and it starts to climb, apply pressure down on, some of the work that was going on. But it was still manageable. The thing about the pandemic and about the shutdown was that it was instantaneous. I was actually at an event the night that South by Southwest emailed and said, "We're done.
We're done.
We just have been closed. We were not happening." I had contracts already internally signed with them on multiple different job sites, and we had clients that were coming in from all over the place. And I was at a museum where I had a contract in downtown, and I was with a client and with an auctioneer, and she said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just got the email, and it's gone.
Right.
South by's gone." And she said, "What does that mean?" The auctioneer
Not
asked
good.
me that. And I said, "We're done." And I knew it. Like I knew. I mean, I can do math, and I can read the writing on the wall. And I read that email, and we're doing this event, and we're getting close. We start load out. And I looked at my phone again, and it was one email after another, and it was just canceled.
Yep.
So it's about 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. I lost by 10 o'clock at night. I lost 17% of my year.
It's incredible.
And that's just something that, like, when you're an owner, you just go, well, these are like biblical level weirdness things. Right?
Yes. Right.
So then you go, I go to the parking lot. I go home that night, and by the time I got home, I lost 30% of the year. And the next morning, it was 40 and 50. Wow. And then within about a week, all of the business basically was gone. We all shut down. There was no industry, and we're not the only industry, obviously, but like every single market, every single industry shut down completely because we didn't know what the danger points were, right?
Right.
And so there's a very big difference between having no work and having your people be at your office and trying to figure out, like, what does that mean for us? What are we going to do? And then we were told that we couldn't be at the office.
Right.
And, I laid off 27 people. And that is something that was just awful. It's an awful experience. Actually, I laid myself off too, which is a very weird experience. I thought about screenshotting me in the middle of doing it, and I went, no, I don't ever want to see this again. This is horrible.
Right.
But laying off 27 people that you just absolutely passionately care about, who you've been working with for years and years, and they have health insurance, they bought homes, and they have children. It's gut wrenching, to have that experience. And the coming out of it, it was, I think the thing that was most poignant for all of us is that we could all come out of it, but we're not going to probably come out of it as companies. We're going to come out of this as people. What can you do in your home and your experience, and what can you do with limited equipment? And what I ended up doing is I put a TriCaster in my house and ended up doing broadcasting.
Right.
It's like my wife and I were stuck in the home, and she has her office upstairs, and I have my office downstairs, and we're doing live streams. And that is what you did.
Yeah.
And luckily, this is starting to turn, and people are back in the events, and as complicated it is, whether it's a wave, going up and down and making part of this difficult, or the access to product, or the shortages, or that kind of stuff. The good thing is that everybody that you had, everybody that was part of your team, even if they're not part of your team still, they are part of someone's team, and they're working, and that makes me feel just awesome. Some of them I have back, it's great. Some of them obviously I don't.
Yeah.
But you just want to make sure that they're able to do what they really care about doing, and to get back out there. And it's a little light, a little light at the end of the tunnel.
Amen. Well, and look, I mean, a lot of that experience we had similar. So I can't understand as a business owner, frankly. I know Joe would probably relate to you a little bit better in that regard, but I mean, obviously just not great. That's what I kept saying. I'm like, not great. It's not great. But let me ask you this on a brighter note. Coming out of this, now that we're in, we'll call it, I don't know. Now that we're in this next phase of it, like chapter 8.
Bell curve COVID.
Yeah, right, exactly. Are there any new, I don't know if there's new tools, new approaches, new needs that are coming up that seem to be directly, from the time that we spent remote?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot. And I feel incredibly comfortable or uncomfortable about saying this sentence, so I'm just going to preface this. But one of the benefits of the pandemic, horrible. But one of the benefits of what happened and what it did to us is it forcibly put this paradigm shift on all of us, on all of our clients, of all the people that we work with in the venues, in the hotels. It put this on us at the same time, all together. And we were clueless, right, on how to actually, operate within this new idea. But we all did it at the same footing, right? So where, 10 years ago, I mean, obviously you got in-house companies, you got out-house companies, there's always like, oh, there's those guys, Well, that's gone, because we have the same employees that we're sharing between this, right?
Yeah.
And we're able to do work that is completely different. Hybrid it's not going away, obviously.
Right.
The market, once you tap into that market and they're at home and their ability to, like my wife, she has autoimmune issues, and she very much does not want to go into the office, and she's really glad that she's able not to do that. But there are people that will not travel. They won't go to these meetings anymore. They don't go to the office, so that daily kind of connectivity pieces, technology pieces, there's so many new opportunities for that audience. And if you don't use them, you are ignoring that audience, and that is just not acceptable. Right. So I think one of the great parts, I wouldn't have said this a long time ago, but one of the great parts about this is the new kind of IT merger of what we're doing with hybrid. And I know a lot more now about IT and IP video and NDI and Dante and all of these things that I just wouldn't have spent the time learning Now I have a remote studio that I use for a broadcasting, infrastructure site, and it's all Dante and NDI, and it's got SDI backflow, and those things would not have happened in my plans as a company owner. I wouldn't have put the time in. Every once in a while, people were asking us to do live streaming, and we're like, yeah, sure, we can do live streaming. That's fine. And now it's every event you do. Yes. Every event you do is going to go to one location or one platform or another. Sometimes you're doing simulcast. You're pushing both directions, and really getting into understanding what that is, whether it's platforms like this that we're using today, or it's, diving in and understanding vMix or those type of things. That's the future of AV. Right. We fought the IT part for too long. None of us got into this because we're creatives, right? None of us video engineers got into doing AV because we like to, ping IP addresses, right? That is not who we are. We just hate that as a concept, right? And now it's most of my day. That's what I do. You know? So I think the technology parts, that.
Absolutely. No, and it's kind of funny. Again, we have some similar experiences there. It's just funny how, and we talk about this sometimes internally, but before this all happened, right? Just like you said, we had to learn it, right? Like you're in the position where people are going to come to you asking for help, and you have to be able to help them, and you know that. And it was just funny how there were projects that came knocking at our door maybe like months before the pandemic, right? And again, same with you. We'd been doing live stream. We'd actually been doing some hybrid meetings for some of the corporate groups that we work with, and they looked very different, right? They were an innkeeper and a telephone bridge and two-way audio, and and that was like high tech. And we're like, okay, great. But it's just funny how there were literally projects that we told people, no, you can't do that. That's not going to work. It's too messy. It's too this. It's too that. Then flash forward, and it's literally your bread and butter now, right? And it's like now I'm doing this every single day, and I can tell you all about it. And it's just what a strange and quick transition. It truly is. But
but you know what? It's exciting, right? I mean, when I started in AV, and we were doing overhead projectors, 35 millimeter slide projectors, and for anybody that had the privilege of doing this, go and ping us and let us know. I mean, it was boring. It was so boring. Yeah. It was tripod screen, overhead projector, right? Once that digital technology kind of came in right at the turn of the century, it's just like it hit and it's stuck there, right? And there's a lot of technology that we were using. Things were getting a little different in terms of what the clients were asking for. Most of it was on the creative side. Like, hey, can we do some stuff on the walls and video map and do some creative lighting and that kind of thing. But on the actual meeting part, the connectivity part between audience to audience, man, it hasn't moved an inch in certain ways. And then this experience happens for all of us, and we have so many tools now. It's we're over here using Zoom ISO, and we have this and that, and I did at the same time in my house, in my laundry room, I did the final episode cast experience for Shameless for Showtime. And we all had them on Skype, and so they had little iPads, and I think they were in like 7 or 8 different locations. So I'm doing that, and I'm doing a gala on the other side with my other hand. Like, that would have, this is fun. This is actually really challenging, and it's making you try to figure out, do I have the chops for this? Yeah, just no, of course. And then you learn it, and that's really cool. I mean, it's just it's a nice thing to have come out of this.
Absolutely. No, and you know what? And I got to say, it does feel good to be, this might be a little bit grandiose, but to be at the forefront of really developing technology and applications, right? And to be, creating these new procedures and these new expectation levels. And, that to me was really rewarding, is feeling like, wow, we're really out here doing it, and to this day, I still think about how, had the general aptitude of the greater population not also been forced to come along, it never would have worked. Because that was one thing. It was like fighting an uphill battle for the first several months of like, okay, let's explain computers to you first. Like let's get you to here, and then we can start to increase the the production level. And it's funny because you're right. It never would have happened. We never would have invested the time and the energy or the resources into learning these things because there wasn't even as much of a market. It was like a niche market, right. for at least for our field. I mean, it's just funny how everything had to come along at the same time in order for it to develop the way that it did.
That's right. And then now you have a lot of executives that are actually still working from home as well, the ones that do actually work remotely. You have a lot of experiences where, okay, we've got to join this meeting. We're going to do a whole, round robin discussion at a national sales meeting, but I'm not going to the venue. And, you got this guy who's at his house and he has 2 monitors now. He used to have 1,
right.
Now he's got 2.
We've
he's got his camera on the wrong one, so and it's like, no. You are on TV, right?
Yeah.
You weren't last year, but now you're doing personal broadcasting. Now you're going to have to make sure that you work this out and that you do a little work with the lighting and make sure that you look appropriate and we'll see if you keep your kids in the other room or whatever it is. And somebody's probably about to walk into my room here as I'm in a hotel, but there's so much prep work, right? To get people to have this experience and make sure that they know the pieces that they need to know, and they know enough about the applications, right? You can try to make it easy. Obviously, StreamYard is very easy, right? But you get vMix call links, or sometimes I'm on Zoom ISO and we're doing records, or even Skype TX when you do records. There's a lot of people that say, "What do you mean Skype? Like I use Skype in college. I don't have a Skype account." And you look it up, and they have 9 Skype accounts.
Yeah, right. At AOL,
you search in
at
the
Yahoo.
directory, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like, well, you have 4 different Skype accounts under your Hotmail address.
Right. Yeah.
But there's definitely some lift that has to be applied with remote contribution and remote guests, at some of these meetings. But
absolutely,
it's fun.
It is. It's fun. I don't want to tie you up too long. I have one more question for you. And you can answer it as as short or as long as you'd like. What's coming next? Where do we go from here? What's the what's the next phase of this? Maybe chapter 9 of COVID impact on events.
Chapter
maybe
9, chapter 11,
chapter 11, whatever. I don't even know if we're on chapters anymore. This might be paragraphs at this point. It's too quick.
Let's all agree that we're going to skip over to chapter 13 or 14. We just skip over 9. Yeah.
Deal.
So here's the thing, and I think this is not necessarily a technology thing. I think this is a human thing. And we've all kind of skirted around and probably felt this dealing with certain clients and certain meetings, but we are, as we get back into physically meeting in the same space, from being in shorts and in a t-shirt for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
There's some extra I use the word patience again. There's some extra process that you're going to have to watch for, because people, they haven't really been together, right? And I'm working on a meeting right now that Ryan and I were talking about a little while ago. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's in 3 different countries, but it is solely devoted to getting their employees to be able to engage. COVID test all of them, cool. Get them in the same room, engage, just health, some wellness, like try to figure out culturally, like what does this company look like? There's a lot of new hires that literally have never met,
Yeah.
And so I think it's not so much like what's the next thing, it's more how do we solve for this hurdle? And the hurdle is got a little PTSD, all of us, from this. We all took a pretty big slap in the face on this one. Right, collectively. Right. And we have been disassociated for far too long, right? And we're insecure about certain particular things, and we're unsure about the health aspect of being in public with each other. Just be patient with everybody and try to figure out. And I see meeting planners now trying to add more into the group association, experiences more than they have in the past. Just to let them be friends, let them be, let them be people in the same space. Yes, you have to go and do sales training. Yes, you have to actually, have an experience that you're paying for. But let them be people, in the same room at the same time. My God, they deserve it, after all this.
Right.
And put some effort and put some money behind it, and just don't just take their schedule and just put one meeting after another, one breakout session after another. Like, give them a moment to just be part of your company, or if you're doing sales or it's a client event or something, you're going to get so much out of that. That's kind of how you and I actually met. We just kind of collide and we have this this chance meeting, and all of a sudden, we know a great deal about each other. And if we hadn't spent the time, it's a relationship that would never have started.
Absolutely. Well, Daniel, that is very well said. And I think it's not something that, especially people in the technology space would immediately go to, because my mind is always like, all right, where's the show? Where's the program? Well, it's not all about the program, especially not right now. And I think that's a well-made point, is that people need time to just be people. And well said. And everything was well said. You've been a terrific guest. Thank you for joining, and for taking some time away from your world travels. I wish you very well. I look forward to getting together, hopefully in real life. I tell Joe all the time, IRL. I teach him new acronyms all the time. But
I'm looking forward to eventually. You have to come to Austin on one of these jobs.
Again. Well, now we did meet in person. I don't know if you remember. That was the last job I worked before the world basically shut down. And I remember them talking about their Asian office was not going to be able to come because of this virus. It's just strange. But again, happenstance. I'm happy it happened. And thank you, Daniel. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to working with you again soon.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. It was great. I'm glad that I could be here, even though I'm on vacation. I would never no-show on you like Joe.
Like Joe, yes. I'm gonna make sure we chop up just that little piece. That's great. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it, man.
All right, take care.
Take care. All right, Daniel Kuehm from Atomic Picnic. Check him out, www.atomicpicnic.com. Always a great guy, honestly. I've always enjoyed working with him, and good guy all around. I think that's clear to see. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I do have to go through my recaps here. There's so many buttons to click. I guess I should give Joe a little bit of credit, maybe a little bit. If you're watching this, I don't. If you're not watching this, I give Joe a little bit of credit. But in any case, you can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube Live every Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Drop us a comment. Be part of the show. We're doing it live. You might as well. And, of course, hit that subscribe button and follow us. Show some love. It is always appreciated. And, that last piece is going to be a small, bite-sized piece that you can find on Instagram and Facebook afterwards. So, and then, of course, last but not least, Pirate University next week. I did plan my vacation for the same time. That was not intentional, but it is going to be a great event. I've been there for many years. Registration is still open. Head over to the website, and you can still register and still participate. Speaking of there being not enough people to do the work, there's opportunity out there, folks. So if you're interested and you're technical minded, come on out and hopefully come away with some new skills, some new friends. Right? Be people. Right? That's something we learned too. So. Thank you very much for being here. And I got to click quickly. Here we go. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I do not have a catchphrase, but I have been saying stay golden, pony boy, and Joe hates it. So we're going to stick with that. Take care. Adios. Till next time.